Hi everyone, Nobu here, coming to you completely out of character this time. As we enter 2025, I wanted to talk to you about Season 3 of Coffee and Carbuncles, as well as some interesting side content that I have planned for you all. So let's start with the main attraction, episodes 21 through 30 of Coffee and Carbuncles. To begin with, this season will have brand new music. While it is 14 inspired, it will not be directly from the game for copyright purposes, but it will be relaxing cafe music with a nice Tuliolol theme to it. I really think you guys will enjoy it. And along with that new music, I plan to be more clear about the transition from in character and out of character during the podcast episodes. And that may come with new sounds as well, though I'm not quite decided on that yet. See, over the past 2 seasons, I've experimented with various ways to blend a roleplay inspired cafe experience with a nice out of character interview for all of you. Some people like it, some don't. I've gotten quite a lot of feedback on it, and ultimately, it depends on your preference. Now, I have gotten requests to do the interviews completely in character, and while that would be awesome, I feel like that would be a little difficult given some of the questions I ask, as well as some of the more random topics that interviews can veer off into. Instead, I plan to have a clear roleplay segment at the start of each episode, then the usual out of character interviews you guys are used to. Then, once my guest is done speaking, I'll put any important out of character information, such as conventions or in game events coming up, after part 2 of the interview. That way we can have a brief music segue at the end, and the in-character portion will end, and then we can end the episode in character. With this season, I would really like to start and end every episode with that in-character roleplay experience that I've been trying to cultivate over the past 2 seasons. Now, in regards to the actual content of the interviews themselves, in Season 3 of Coffee and Carbuncles, I'd like to focus on gatherings both in and out of game. After attending my first convention this year at Gateway Fate, as well as a lot more in-game events, I would really like to help spread the word about in and out of 14 gatherings to all of you. This season, I really want it to be about what we can do together as a community and how we can come together. Obviously, that is a lot more broad than the past 2 seasons. It means my guests will usually be the host or spokesperson or coordinator for these events, which I'm sure has some of you asking, okay, but wasn't the point of Coffee and Carbuncles to highlight individual people within our community? Wasn't the point to help shine a spotlight on the individual? And aren't you moving away from that by doing this? And to be honest, the answer to all 3 of those is yes, yes, and well, yes, which is why I also wanted to talk more about my new side projects. In 2025, I'll be working on 3 new side projects for Coffee and Carbuncles. The first will be something I wanted to do in 2024 that I've spoken about before but just didn't have the time, which is recording purely text interviews that I've done in the past with a friend. A large reason for this is that I originally wanted to have a website for the podcast that I would post these text interviews on, but sadly that hasn't happened. The friend is going to read my guest part of the interview, and I'll be reading my own questions, and we will try and get these on YouTube for everyone to listen to. This way, even if someone doesn't want to speak with me on a recording or doesn't have time, or even just doesn't feel like their spoken English is good enough for an interview, they can still express themselves through text, and I can still try and get these interviews to all of you in the most efficient way possible. Now, the second side project goes back to the original point of Coffee and Carbuncles that I spoke about earlier. Some of you may have seen my post asking if anyone has mained a job since it was first released, and if you would be willing to sit down and talk about it for an hour. This is because I want to have a series of smaller interviews on YouTube where I sit down with one person for every job in Final Fantasy XIV as we discuss their feelings about that job, how the job has changed over time, as well as the quests and the lore for that job. I think this will be a really fun side project and will also help get people from all over the community involved in my interviews. Then finally, we have my third side project. This one I don't really have a set plan for quite yet, but I would like to do a series of YouTube videos about the lore of my character Nobutaka, my free company Arcana Unlimited, and ultimately lore about how Nobutaka, the character, started the cafe Coffee and Carbuncles. I love lore and I love role playing and I love writing, and I just think it would be a very fun thing to do sometime. But in regards to the main season of Coffee and Carbuncles, as well as these three projects I've mentioned, the personal lore videos are definitely the lowest priority. So while I do want to get those out sometime, when is a very large question at this point. Obviously, I don't plan for the main podcast plus all three side projects to release at the same time. Season 3 of Coffee and Carbuncles will, of course, be my priority, but these three side projects are things I can work on between episodes and kind of release for fun. They're also something that, should I not be able to get a guest in a particular month, I can release these instead of giving you guys just nothing. I can give you guys what I still feel is meaningful content every month. Because my goal for 2025 is every month, I would like to be able to put out content in some form. The goal, again, being the release of a mainline Coffee and Carbuncles episode. But if that isn't possible for whatever reason that month, then I can still fall back on some of these side content ideas and put those out for you guys. So between a 10-episode season and 3 different side projects, I hope everyone is very excited for 2025, and I hope you will join me on this journey to grow as a content creator and to help grow connections within our Final Fantasy XIV community. So with all that being said, I will see you all in 2025. Happy New Year, and please stay safe, everyone. Take care.